All right, hello everyone. Welcome to part two of the prediction videos. Two of two for predictions today. We already did the AFC this morning. Right now we're going to do the NFC. So when you're done with this video, make sure you go check out the AFC to see where I stand on that conference and that landscape. But for right now, we're going to talk about the NFC. We have the four divisions up on the board here, and I'm going to go through them one by one. And as same as the previous video, I'm going to sort of try to explain my takes here as best as I can and back up my predictions. Now again, I'm going to sort of try to figure out what I think that the accurate win total can be for some of these teams. And it's not a prediction of, this is, going to check out with all of the math. So I'm not going to try to figure out the exact win total. So if you are a math whiz and you go to add all this up and you're like, hey, this doesn't match how many games are scheduled, it's not going to, okay? It's going to look a little weird, but I'm just trying to sort of see if I can get within range of where Las Vegas has the over or under win odds and where I think that would fall into the grand scheme of things once the season is said and done. So the win totals are just my overall opinion of the team and what I think they can achieve, if you will. So having explained everything once again, let's go ahead and get into this. And we're going to start with the NFC East, which is always a fun time. So we have the NFC East, and I think that this one is pretty clear. At least for me. I should have probably gotten all my materials ready before I started this, but of course, that is how it goes. So for the NFC East, without question, and I don't know how anybody else could really put in another team here if they were being serious about the predictions, unless they just wanted to be different. But I'm going to go with the Cowboys as the division winner. I really like what they've done in this offseason. I think Dak Prescott is legit. Ezekiel Elliott is obviously one of the better running backs in the league. Tony Pollard is probably the best backup in the league, if you will, if there is such a thing. Amari Cooper has been a different wide receiver since he came to Dallas. They still have Michael Gallup, who had a very quiet 1,000-yard season last year. And CeeDee Lamb, I believe it was 17 overall in the first round that he was drafted this year. That's an absolute steal. So it remains to be seen what kind of tight end Blake Jarwin is. The offensive line should be pretty good. It's one of the better ones in the league. On the defensive side, you still have DeMarcus Ware. Now you have Everson Griffin this year. The only questionable part is probably going to be the secondary. How are they going to, sort of figure things out with that? That might be their weakness. But still, in this division, with this talent on offense, they should put up a lot of points. And I think that they can take this division pretty easily. And I'm going to project them to have 10 wins. So 10 wins for Dallas. Moving on to the second team. Second place team is a little harder to sort of justify, but at the same time, I think they still have enough talent on paper, and I still think they have the better of the four quarterbacks in the division, minus Dak Prescott. So I think it would, rank Dak Prescott's probably the best right now, and then the other three. And when you put the other three in a room by themselves, it's really no comparison. So for the second place team, I'm going to go with Philadelphia. Just because Doug Peterson's still a very good head coach. It's still a very good offense, even despite all of these injuries that are going on right now prior to the season starting. And I'm going to go with the Eagles as second place team. But, however, given the fact that I'm very concerned about the injury prognosis for a lot of these players and the fact that they took it upon themselves to add 41-year-old Josh McCown to the practice squad as an emergency quarterback, I'm going to jump off whatever hype train might be left over from the Super Bowl run, and I'm going to go with 8 wins. And you might think, well, that's not fair. This is definitely a 9 or 10 win team. Sure, but I'm going to buck the trend here a little bit. Jalen Reagor with a labrum injury already before the season even starts. Alshon Jeffrey was banged up. They really are going to need a lot out of Deshaun Jackson and Zach Ertz. Although Zach Ertz tweeted today that he was very excited about the roles that he's going to be getting this year from the team. So maybe Zach Ertz usage will go up. But at least I think, the Eagles could probably win 9, but I'm going to go with 8 for right now. So for third place, I think these two teams are interchangeable, but I'm going to go with the team that I think a lot of people won't pick to finish first in this league to finish third, because I believe in their head coach. I believe that Ron Rivera is the man for the job, and it took me so long to write this because I wasn't sure what to write, but I'll just write football team. The Washington football team is going to come in third place in the NFC East, because I believe Ron Rivera, I believe in Jack Del Rio, the new defensive coordinator. Chase Young with the second overall pick this year is going to be an absolute freak in his rookie season. Josh Allen got 10 and a half sacks, I think it was last year. So that is the bar, and I think he can meet it. The defense probably won't be that bad. The offense is a little bit more in flux right now. Dwayne Haskins has to prove himself. Alex Smith is back on the roster, amazingly. Comeback player of the year, even if he doesn't take a fucking snap. Antonio Gibson figures to be the starting running back after the team has said goodbye to Darius Geis and Adrian Peterson this year. And then for the wide receivers, Terry McLaurin is good, and they just need somebody else to step up to be wide receiver too. So I believe Ron Rivera, and I think that the Washington football team could possibly surprise some people. Now, they're not going to be exceptional. They'll probably back into some wins. So I'm going to go with still a losing season, but I think that there could be a little bit better with the culture change, and I'm going to go with 6 wins. I think that's fair. Okay, moving on. Last place team, the only one that's left, is unfortunately the New York Giants. And Giants fans, you'll probably be mad about this, but unfortunately I can't help it. Circumstances have just presented this situation as plausible, and I'm going to roll with it. And the reason for this is because I have seen that some rumblings through the reporting grapevine that Daniel Jones hasn't had a great training camp. The defense isn't exactly great. They've got a lot of pieces that I like. Julian Love, O'Shane Ximenez. They're going to lose DeAndre Baker, I believe. Andrew Thomas was a great first-round pick this year, 4th overall, so that'll solidify the left tackle spot with the opt-out of Nate Solder. But Daniel Jones is going to be the ride or die for this team. Wow, it got really hot in here today. But I just don't know if they can score enough points. That is my only criticism is, are they going to be able to score enough points to keep up with everybody else in this league? And it's all going to depend on Daniel Jones, because I don't think that this defense is going to strike fear into anybody. So I'm going to give the Giants 4 wins. And that is my outlook on the NFC East. So let's move on next to the NFC North. Oh, this is my division. So trying to eliminate as much bias as possible, given that this is my division. I'll sort of explain myself as we go along, as I've been doing, I guess. So for the NFC North, it's realistically between the Packers and the Vikings. And I know people are going to say I'm being a homer and I'm not being, unbiased, but I'm going to go with the Vikings to win this division. Even though I don't think they should, but given the talent they have on the roster, even with the overhaul of the secondary and the loss of Stephon Diggs in the trade with the Buffalo Bills, I still think that this team did just enough to not get as worse as the other teams in the league over this past offseason. Really, when you look at the offseason for all these teams, the Lions probably got better the most, if I could phrase it that way, but it's still not enough to overcome the Packers and the Vikings. So I like the Vikings this year to probably win, even though the current trajectory suggests that they should only win 8 this year, given the history of this team and the up and downs of it. I'm going to project 10 wins. I think that's fair. The schedule's pretty tough, but like I said, they got Yannick Ngakoue. Maybe my story is different before that trade. Yannick Ngakoue, Danielle Hunter is an elite pass rusher. Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris are one of the best safety combos in the league, if not the best. Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks are beasts at linebackers, and Eric Wilson's the third one. So really the only question mark is the corner position, and I believe the official depth chart had Holton Hill and Mike Hughes as the starting 2 corners with Jeff Gladney in the slot. So that secondary is going to be tested. Up front, still pretty good. They really could benefit from a 3-tech defensive tackle, but Michael Pierce had to opt out. It is what it is. On offense, Justin Jefferson is listed as wide receiver 3. That's interesting. B.C. Johnson will be wide receiver 2. They still have Dalvin Cook, Alexander Mattison, Mike Boone, tremendous backfield, and then Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith Jr. are your starting tight ends in the 2 tight end sets for Gary Kubiak's offense. So I think it's enough to win 10 games and enough to win this division. Moving on to the second team, which I've kind of already sort of alluded to, and that's Green Bay. I'm going to put them as second place because, once again, it's another draft, another offseason where they don't do anything to really give Aaron Rodgers any sort of weapons. Yes, they signed Devin Funchess, but he opted out. They spent their first-round pick on a backup quarterback who probably could have used another year in college in Jordan Love. Second-round pick was A.J. Dillon when you already have Aaron Jones in the building. And then the third round pick was the tight end from Cincinnati, who they hope to transform into the Kyle Juszczyk role. After they got, I think that this team's just trying too hard to be the 49ers and emulate that. And the other thing is, I think they caught lightning in a bottle last year with that 13-3 season. I don't think that that's repeatable, if you will. So I'm going to go with a little bit of a regression. Maybe Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur don't hit it off this year based off of all the offseason action. And I'm going to project 9 wins. Still a very good quality playoff team. It just depends on how they react to all of the changes. Moving on to the third team in this division. The team that I think got the most better, if that's a phrase, this year in this division is going to be the Lions. And I like what they've done. Most recently, they've signed Adrian Peterson. So they now have a very decent backfield of Kerryon Johnson, DeAndre Swift, who was a second-round pick this previous draft, and the veteran Adrian Peterson, who still has enough juice left in him to help them on the early downs. Kenny Golladay figures to be a rising star. A lot of people are hyping up Marvin Jones Jr. this year. Everybody thinks that he's going to have a good season. Same with Matthew Stafford, even, if you will. On the defensive side, Matt Patricia needs to step up and be the defensive mind that he was in New England. Otherwise, he's probably going to get fired. How that is able to be achieved after moving Darius Slay in a trade with the Eagles and then drafting Jeffrey Okudah, I've always said, with the limited offseason workout programs and no preseason games, this is going to be a bad year for rookies. And corner is one of those positions that's really difficult to transition into. So how is that going to affect Jeffrey Okudah this year with everything that's going on? So I like the Lions. I like the direction they're going. I just don't think it's enough for this year. And Matt Patricia's job is on the line, but I think they should do a little bit better. So I'm going to project 6 wins. Next is the Chicago Bears. As if that was any wonder. But, it's probably one of the best defenses in the division. But the problem is the offense is not going to be good again. And that is just them not willing to commit to anybody else but Mitchell Trubisky. And I understand why they don't want to do it. It's stupid that they don't want to do it, but I understand why. So you bring in Nick Foles on this contract, and you're just wasting him on the bench. Now, he should be the starting quarterback, but at the same time, I get why they're doing it with Trubisky. A, they don't want to admit they made a mistake. And B, yeah, he probably does have the better skill set for that offense. He's younger. It's just the fact that it just hasn't worked, and he's been the source of a lot of criticism. The David Montgomery injury doesn't help. When are you going to get him back? All you have really is Tariq Cohen. The receivers are good. Allen Robinson had a great season last year despite Trubisky, and I think Anthony Miller's route running is going to surprise a lot of people this year. So the defense is solid, with Khalil Mack, Eric Armstead, Kyle Fuller, Amos, just everybody that they have on that defense. This defense should be good if it can stay healthy. It didn't last year with some people missing games, but all is not lost. They just have to figure it out on offense, and until they do, I'm going to go with 5 wins. So that is my projection for the NFC North and predictions. So moving on, what's next? Oh, the NFC South. This one's tough. This one is tough. The South and the West, NFC South, NFC West, and the AFC West are probably the 3 best divisions in football. If the Bengals could figure themselves out, you could add the AFC North in there. But this one's tough. But at the top, I don't think it's very difficult, because you look at what they've done in the offseason, the things that they tried to do and were still unsuccessful with, leads me to believe that they are all in, and they need to be, because Drew Brees doesn't have much time left. He's 41 years old, starting to lose a little bit, but still great starting quarterback for this league. So I'm going to give the division to the Saints. And I think they should be able to steamroll that schedule that they got, especially early on. And, they've got a lot of exciting talent. Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Jared Cook, Alvin Kamara. His whole offseason thing with the last few weeks with the epidural and the contract talks, I think was just, just noise happening for him to get an extension. So defense should also still be pretty good. It just feels like they have a luxury of just doing whatever they want and being able to win games. So I'm going to project 13 wins for the Saints. So Saints fans can't get mad at me because I'm a Vikings fan, because I gave your team 13 wins and the division. So you can't be mad at me no more. All right, time for second place in this division, and I'm going to go with Tampa Bay. And this one was, I think, easier than most people would think. The Falcons are really good, but but just how good are they? Tampa Bay's defense is probably going to be better than people realize. And, you know, that was one of the major problems last year. But as long as they play like they did in the second half, it should be fine. Offense, everybody knows the story. Tom Brady comes into town, I think he's 43 years old at this point, now surrounded by the greatest set of weapons he's ever had, I think, outside of the Randy Moss year in New England. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, O.J. Howard, Rob Gronkowski, Cameron Bates, Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette. I'm just name dropping at will, if you will. Plus, they also got Tristan Wirfs in the first round of the draft at pick 13 overall. So, Bucks feel like a 10-win team. So that is what I'm going to give them, and I think that is the most achievable. This is definitely a playoff team, as long as Tom Brady is not washed up. If Tom Brady's good, this team will be just fine. Next, moving on, we have a team that is in danger of firing their head coach, and a lot of people were surprised that it hasn't happened already, and that would be the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to give them third place, despite being super loaded on offense. Actually, funny story aside, I was kind of surprised that Laquan Treadwell got cut, but that's what happens when you're a wide receiver who can't separate in this league, is that you will be out of work. The offense is loaded with former first overall picks, especially on the offensive line. Alex Mack, Caleb McGarry, Chris Lindstrom from the draft 2 years ago. They got those two, and Alex Mack in free agency from Cleveland. Matt Ryan is a former first-round pick. Todd Gurley is a former first-round pick. Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Hayden Hurst. It's just a name drop of former first-round picks for this offense. Should be really good. Defense is a little suspect. They finally got rid of Vic Beasley. He is now in Tennessee, even though he's just been replaced by Jadeveon Clowney. But Keanu O'Neal should be recovered from his injury. Grady Jarrett is one of the more underrated interior pass rushers in the league. So the defense is going to need to step up, and the offense might have to play shootout more often than they want. But still a very strong team. I'm going to go with an 8-win projection. That is my guess, if you will. Moving on to the last team, is just too much transition, too much new faces, too many new faces. Average age, I believe, is 24 and a half years old for this team, and that's just not enough to compete in this league. So I'm going to go with the Panthers to finish in fourth place, which I don't think is a surprise really to anyone. You've gotten rid of your Pro Bowl franchise quarterback Cam Newton. Teddy Bridgewater finally comes in to a starting role that I think he can solidify for 1, if not 2 years. Christian McCaffrey is your workhorse running back. I'm a little concerned about the 403 touches last year. Don't overwork this kid, because you're gonna need to rely on him to really move this offense. DJ Moore is a really good wide receiver. You got Rodney Anderson from the Jets on I believe it was a 1-year contract for $20 million, if I'm remembering correctly. And then you traded for Russell Okung, so you have a stalwart left tackle. Defensive side is a little bit more suspect. Retirement of Luke Kuechly hurts. You still have Brian Burns, who I love, who was an absolute steal as the 16th overall pick 2 years ago. And it's really just going to factor in on how well can those rookies from the all defense draft that they had this year, and how well Matt Rule can adjust to the speed of the NFL. So a lot of question marks, too many for me to really get them any higher than last in the division. But I don't think that they'll totally bottom out. I think Bridgewater is good enough to navigate this offense. It just matters how much the defense can step up. So I'll project them for 5 wins. All right, last division of the day, last prediction is going to be the toughest one, because we have the NFC West. It is loaded with teams that are really good, and this is going to be difficult. But at the top, once again, I'm just going to put up a whole bunch of chalk here, and I'm going to go with the 49ers as the division winner for the NFC West, for a lot of reasons. Despite the injuries to, the wide receiver group, Jalen Hurd, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and then them having to bring in no-name wide receivers to work out. Despite that, I don't think this offense is won with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they win with Jimmy Garoppolo, and they don't win because of him. The defense is going to be really good again this year. The front seven is made of terrors. Javon Kinlaw was an excellent draft pick this year. I really do like the wide receiver group, but I don't think that they're going to be a primary focus of the season. The running back platoon, a Shanahan offense is going to produce a 1,000-yard running back, so it could be Tevin Coleman, it could be Mostert. It really doesn't matter. Jerick McKinnon is still here, so there's also that possibility. George Kittle is one of the best tight ends in the league. So in my mind, this team is ready to go back to the playoffs. Will they make it all the way? Will it be another 13-3 season? I don't know quite about that. Maybe they got a little lucky last year. But I'm going to go with 11 wins for their total projection. That sounds good. Next is my favorite pick prediction of the day. And this is one that I'm going to be harping on. If you watched the preview for the 2020 season for the Arizona Cardinals, you might know a little bit about this, or if you read the comments section of that video. But I'm going to be bold here, and I'm going to go with the Cardinals finishing second in this division, ahead of the Seahawks and the Rams, both who felt like they took a step or two back this year. And I'm also going to be more bold, and I'm going to project this team is a playoff team, potentially, and I'm going to lock them in with a projected total of 9 wins. I love Kyler Murray. I love what he can do. He needs to do a little bit better job getting rid of the ball in the intermediate area. DeAndre Hopkins comes in the trade with the Houston for David Johnson. That should help. Larry Fitzgerald is a great veteran presence despite how long he's been there. Other good receivers in the room: Christian Kirk, Andy Isabella, Keyshawn Johnson. Kenyon Drake comes in if he plays a full season. Last year he played 8 games, about 680 some yards. That projects out to about probably an 1,100 yard season for him if he can do it for 16 straight. Defense should be better this year. Chandler Jones is an elite pass rusher who nobody really knows about, or at least casual fans probably don't know about him. The secondary is great with Baker, Peterson, Kirkpatrick. Then throw Isaiah Simmons into the mix, the jack of all trades, master of none defensive player. You can put him just about anywhere. So really excited about the Cardinals this year. All they got to do is just put it together. Next, for third place, I'm going to go with the team that is strapped for cash, didn't have a first round pick, and that is going to be the Los Angeles Rams. I still am a believer in the offense, despite what people think of Jared Goff and Sean McVay, but they've got a lot of talent, good talent around them. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson coming out of Florida this year is probably one of the more crisp route runners that we've seen, outside of guys like Jerry Jeudy. But Van Jefferson's had a really nice camp. He's turned a lot of heads. He should be good. The running back situation is not great. Darrell Henderson's injury history is looming. The starter has been named Malcolm Brown, and they did get Cam Akers in the draft from Florida State, which is funny because Cam Akers goes from a terrible offensive line at Florida State to a not-so-great offensive line with the Rams. So that is interesting. On the defensive side, pretty good pieces: Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. The defense will probably not be as good as it has been, but it still has the potential to do well. I'm kind of on the fence with where I'm going with this team. So for right now, I'm gonna go with 8 wins, and we're gonna see this season what Sean McVay is made of. For the last place team, and it sucks to do it because I love Russell Wilson, and I know Seahawks fans are going to be absolutely upset with me, but I think that they're playing with house money a little too much when it comes to the draft, and just having this many years in a row of first round draft picks that are just questionable at best, and we've already seen the history of them not working out. I don't know how Jordan Brooks makes your team better right now. Bobby Wagner is fantastic on the defensive side. Who's going to rush the passer in this defense? Is it LJ Collier? I don't know how you call yourself a playoff team with that front seven, despite Bobby Wagner being present. On the offensive side, really great stuff. Russell Wilson's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Tyler Lockett's one of the more underrated wide receivers in the league. I love DK Metcalf. What he can do for this team is just lights out. They have Will Dissly, and who was the other tight end that they have? Now I forget who it was. Whatever. The running back group is fantastic. Chris Carson, Rashad Penny, Carlos Hyde. I guess it's not fantastic, but it's good enough for them to be able to do what they want to do, and that's run the football. And I think Chris Carson's probably one of the more underrated running backs in the league, much like Tyler Lockett with the wide receiver group. So despite me talking them up that much, there's probably still going to come in fourth, at least in my mind, and I'm going to project them for 7 wins. So not terrible. I don't think they've won fewer than 6 games since Russell Wilson came to town. So 7 is probably the kind of season that would wake up a lot of people, and maybe they need to start worrying about building for the future with these draft picks instead of just taking flyers. So but that is my predictions for the NFC conference. Hope you all enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one.